But in the lead up to the budget, these are strange times indeed. We've never seen so much spending in peacetime in this country. Coalition government just chucking out the money, debt that is eye-watering, budget deficits the size of which we thought we would never see. And this is so strange that in this huge, big spending era, we've now got the Labor Party talking about being restrained on their spending. Here's the Labor leader, Anthony Albanese, today.
Money was always tight at our place, so Mum also taught me the value of a dollar. And that's why when it comes to thinking about government spending, I am cautious.
Pretty easy to be more cautious than the coalition is at the moment. There's money's not tight at the moment. It's growing on trees. Let's get a preview of the budget with the contributing economics editor of the Australian newspaper, Judith Sloan, who joins us from Melbourne. Judith, are we living in a fantasy land?
Well, I personally think we are. I kind of asked myself this question today, like, if I was an economist and I came from Mars and I landed in Australia and they told me what their fiscal policy intentions were, I think I'd be saying, are you crazy? Because actually what's happened is that the terms of trade, the commodity prices, the iron ore price, is nearly as high as the peak was nearly a decade ago. So that's an extraordinary fillip, both to the economy and also to the budget. The economy really is roaring back. The labour market is very strong, and in fact, I'm sure you hear from your commentators there are a lot of labour shortages. And yet really the government has softened us up to keep spending on big.
Yeah, exactly. We're not expecting any sort of consolidation in the budget. Now, it was only 2 years ago when we were talking about getting back to surplus and we were talking about getting government spending under 25% of GDP as the golden rule. This year, as you pointed out in your column today, spending is going to be a full third, 33% of GDP. Government spending increasing 20% this year. Now, this is all based on a response to the pandemic, of course. And the government also gets comfort from two critical factors. One is interest rates are so low. The other is everybody else in the world is doing it. Could all these governments be wrong?
Well, I think it could all end in tears. And it doesn't end equally in tears for everyone, actually, because we are a small open economy. And in the context, for example, of the iron ore price crashing and other commodity prices crashing, that affects us disproportionately in an adverse way. Yes, look, I think it's extraordinary. I mean, don't forget the government commissioned back in black cups. Sadly, I never got one of them.
No, me neither. They'd be worth a fortune.
I think they could
now.
be quite valuable. Exactly. And look, I think that the way to think about it is in two parts. I think we were faced with extreme uncertainty last year. And of course, the budget wasn't handed down till October in any case, but we weren't sure of what was going to happen with the pandemic. A lot of the impact on the economy was actually the government restrictions associated with the pandemic, not the pandemic itself. So I think you can forgive the government a certain, you can give them a bit of a free pass in the sense that it was probably important for a variety of reasons to spend up big and support employment through JobSeeker, for example. I think it's a different ballgame now. I think the government did the right thing in killing off JobKeeper. I think that was the right thing to do. But they're seemingly going to fall into the trap of increasing really big program spending items, which you can never wind back. So I'm thinking here, childcare, aged care, mental health, disability services. Now, look, they're all worthy
but they'll be locked in for
activities.
Good. That's a critical point. Critical point indeed. They're not one-off spends.
Exactly.
Thanks for joining us, Judith. I appreciate it. Judith Sloan there, the contributing editor of the Australian newspaper. She has enormous experience as a commentator, as an academic, as someone who sat on the boards of some of our major companies in the real world. And as you heard her there, it could all end in tears. That's what worries me.